let me just echo the same sentiment with respect and relationship. It pretty seems that national level as well as staff, and I think the way that you integrate into the chip over there, and I look forward to continuing to work close with you, and also I look forward to wine. And the chair in welcoming our today, certainly the brain of the intelligence, and an awful lot of events here, so a lot of talent. At the tape comment, more brave men that work for you. The growth they're doing holds most meetings in close, so this hearing is one opportunity to discuss the face our nation. One of the few we do get in our public, the men and intelligence, also the heart of the folk for each of thousands is a great for the intelligence. Here, when we feel the realization decade of sure that bin Laden and Anwar will never threaten. Glad to say no longer a annual threat where some of the question, where is bin Laden? Last successes were achievement, resulted from nation and in every particular us by the work done by counterterrorism and working to take down terror in their network. With these, I've countless that court is on the road. As long as continued sustained pressure on the group. Director, this sentiment in your commitment for the right days here. I know alone on the believing that continue while of pressures to degrade Al-Qaeda once and we're seeing and gains that take to it in a road quick if we do what is to protect. I hope we're other lessons. Dismayed administration to hands today of Operative Ali McDuke last. Too late now what I will result in relief terrorists, 5 Americans in Iraq, but too late to that the same not happen. Hundreds of terrorists in Afghanistan. I hope our witness discussed of likely posed by detainees and the role in prevalence and planning handle attention is to ask. To be a challenge, the administration still lacks long-term policy, but we just keep detainees. Brings me to my point. Press report line to trainers to Guantanamo to plan as a bill measure. It appears report that in for transferees determined to be two to trans administration's Guantanamo task force weak to nothing earned. Apparently then will not fighting us and won't stop bombing with IEs. Also hearing the IC assessments that these have changed. I want to state as strong as can that we should transfer detainees to Guantanamo. I believe unity classified against a set of these detainees and have a full and debate the wisdom for before place. Then conclude the comment. All with the times armchair, I not this moment. But I want to get in an uncle fact. Petraeus, outstanding service country in many cases, service in the middle indicating time that he directed the you're right and communicate. Two of us know with our colleague House and been available to come on both online and in basis, as well as available for us conversations. Surprise. The question of as we all have the utmost confidence in his lead along with the entirety and there his that's transition director to portray and we're very done of his job. One other issue mentioned following the event number 11 the committee intelligence Caryn and I heard a sub the intel that did review the feeding of the event number 11, and we used the first report on the deficient within the community led up to number 11. We were very critical of the community in one aspect, and that was lack of sharing of information between various agents in the community. Or you and I extensive here along to any of the members here that issue. I just want to say that the past we alluded in that report have you default. I would say that without still improvements the information all of it is at a serious level. And I had the privilege of visiting with your facility recently. It was impressive not to see improvement from a technology standpoint, but every member of the intelligence Sunday virtually and in real time. The use of community from a C standpoint is impressive. And all of the work it's not easy. And sometimes I know very well to decide the previous relationship of exist. Boy, ever done a good job. Breaking down our wall and really aging, remember the community to ensure we disrupt activity and all this to America as well, country and all around the world. I from that. Thank you for today and over to your time. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you much, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to